We are live. This is full-time live. Fulham have beaten Leicester 2-1 at the King Power Stadium. Who saw that coming? I think we've just been with us three. We were potentially preparing for a slightly more depressing chat than the one we're just about to have. But what a way to bounce back from that Everton loss and that devastating, obviously, loss at West Ham as well. With a win like that, we were absolutely superb today. Everyone to a man, I thought was brilliant today. And Jack, we've just got to start with something. What a way to remember Papa Boupidiop, as we saw with Ademola Lookman's celebration with a win like that. A win that reminded us how we sort of played when Papa Boupidiop was at the club, under the lights of Chris Coleman.
Yeah, it was almost the perfect way to react to that kind of news. Obviously, it's devastating news for the club and for everyone. And we did everyone proud tonight, and we did him proud. And I'm really pleased we came away with the result. I was maybe too young to appreciate him at Fulham. I remember seeing him in 07-08 just before he left, a couple of games. But what a player, what a few goals he scored for us. And I'm really pleased that tonight it's more importantly about him and the result we got for him rather than the wider context, which I'm sure we'll come on to. But yeah, fantastic. I'm really pleased.
Yeah, I'm sure the guys on the podcast this week will have a full-fledged tribute to Papa Boupidiop. I remember for that United goal, the Chelsea goal, obviously that free kick against Norwich. And also 2002 is the first World Cup I remember. I remember him scoring the opening goal, obviously, against France. But George, if we go and talk about the game itself, what was your reaction when you saw the lineup? Because it was definitely a bit of mixed reactions on social media.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us expected that, especially TC and Mitro being dropped and Cav playing up front. I don't think anyone expected it, or anyone probably would have picked it as their team. But actually, I thought it was probably the perfect team for the game plan that we were going for. Whilst Mitro and TC offer a lot to the squad, they do slow the play down, and when they play, we play a slower, more methodical game. And you could see the game plan was hit him hard, hit him fast on the counter. And for that, the front three of Reed, Lookman and Cavaleiro were pretty much perfect. So yeah, not the team I would have gone with myself, but Scott clearly had a plan, and the players he had on the pitch executed it perfectly.
Yeah, I thought Scott Parker's tactics were absolutely spot on today. And I think we've seen now that when he does take a lead, he does know how to get it over the line. I think we now unbeaten pretty much whenever Scott Parker's taking the lead in a game for us. It's unbelievable. And from the first whistle today, Jack, we just looked like the better side, especially on that counter-attack.
Well, this is interesting because Leicester are a counter-attacking side themselves. So it was interesting to see that they would hold most of the ball and we'd sit behind it and play on the counter as our lineup suggested. And I thought we stifled them really well first 10, 15. And obviously that chance where they hit the post and hit the bar was worrying. But from then on, yes, the first goal is a mistake as they highlighted at half-time where they push up. But the finish is fantastic. And look, Anguissa charging through and playing that ball to Lookman was fantastic. The game management was what was key, and it was so good to see. We stifled Leicester to very minimal chances apart from the last onslaught, and two quick fire goals, one coming from the spot, one a nice composed finish. You really do love to see it, and it's such a confidence booster for us, and it puts teams like West Brom and Sheffield United, and people are going to be like, well, Fulham are doing this. They just won away at Leicester. What have they done? And I know that's not something to get into right now, but it's a massive confidence boost for not only the fans, for the whole team, for the whole club. It's fantastic. Fantastic.
Well, I said, if you're looking at the bottom four, even before today, I would have said we've looked the most, especially in recent games, the most promising out of the bottom four. We may not have played the best overall, but I think we've shown the most signs that we can compete. We competed with teams like, Palace, who'll be mid-table, West Ham, Everton. We've shown we're in games. It's not like 18-19 where we're getting battered every week. We have been in these games. And as you said, on the first goal, Anguissa makes a vintage, basically, driving run through the midfield and plays it into Ademola Lookman, and it's a great finish. I wasn't too sure because obviously we haven't really seen too much one-on-one finishing Ademola Lookman. Obviously he did well for that Sheffield United goal, but yeah, great finish from him. And it didn't necessarily calm the nerves. It could have possibly made me more nervous. Just so no, we're now in the lead, but we did deserve to go in the lead at that point, George.
Oh, I think so. We've got to give credit to Lookman for the finish, especially considering his penalty miss not long before. I mean, I don't know whether he felt pressure in the moment, but I certainly felt pressure for him. Of all the players who you'd want to give the goal to, he would be the one, right? Get the monkey off the back. And yeah, got to say a few words on Anguissa, who such a excellent player, and I think a really rare player in that he's almost one of those guys where you get two players in one. Like, not only do you get the really crunching tackles and the great energy to screen our back four, who I thought were really great today as well, but also he's so strong on the ball. His dribbling is excellent. He brushes people off the ball so easily, and he can play that killer pass. He can do so much in that midfield. He adds so much to the team. And I really do think it's key if we're going to stay up this season, which now we're in pole position to stay up, really. We've got the 3 teams below us now. If he continues playing the way he does, then I think we've got every chance.
And if we move on to the penalty, obviously it was a VAR decision that got pulled back after the situation happened. Jack, what was your first reaction when it happened? Were you like, that's a penalty, or was it not until you saw they were checking VAR and saw the replay that you thought, now that's definitely a penalty?
The thing about these sort of situations is, and we'll come to learn it throughout the season, is that the longer the wait for a decision, and the longer the commentator takes to be like, oh, they've checked it, it's fine, the more you think the possibility of a penalty will take place. And look, at first glance, when I saw it, I didn't really think much of it. I just thought he might have just fell over or slipped. But as the game progressed and the game didn't slow down for about a minute or so, there was still word of no check completed, and I was thinking this is going to be a penalty. Even if I hadn't seen the replay, Luke, my brother, he said, I think that might be a penalty. And when we got the penalty, I didn't get overexcited. I didn't jump around. I didn't do anything. I just went, please, no, not again. But to fair play to Cav. I've been his biggest critic this season. I think everyone knows that. But he stuck it away nicely. But even he made it look like he was going the way he did. He didn't make it. He just made it more difficult for himself. But he stuck it away, and I'm delighted. And 2 goals up away at Leicester is something I just did not expect to happen today at all.
I was just happy that we stuck with the same penalty taker 2 penalties in a row. I think you and Joe said this on Southwest 6 Essential this week, that just pick a penalty taker and stick with him.
Yeah.
Don't change it. We've seen Mitrovic score and miss a penalty, I want to say, this season. We've seen, obviously, Lutman's Panenka against West Ham. We see Cavaleiro stacking it against Everton. And today, even before the penalty was taken, I was happy it was just Cavaleiro taking it. It wasn't like Bobby Reed going up or Loftus-Cheek or Anguissa or whoever. I was quite happy. He was like, right, he's the penalty taker on the pitch. He takes the penalty. And as you say, although, yes, he did, it was fairly obvious where he was going. He put it in the net and keeper couldn't save it. So for me, a good penalty is just one that goes in the back of a net. Yeah. The way Fulham are at the moment, I'm not too bothered how they go in. But yeah, we're 2-0 up here. You've probably got about 7, 8 minutes before half time. So George, we were all like here, just don't concede a goal before the half. And we kept it together, and we limited in the first half in general Leicester to very, very few chances.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's really great to see is we're starting to see the little partnerships forming, and we're starting to see this, what looks like is going to be our first 11, hopefully, for the season. And Adebayo and Anderson together, I thought was superb. Acted really well in tandem. Their positioning was excellent, and considering they're up against Jamie Vardy, who's probably the centre back's worst nightmare, they nullified him from the game so well. He didn't, aside from his assist right at the end, he barely had a sniff, which a lot of.
Well, yeah, I'd say in the first half, especially, it was that one flick which Areola blocked and Anderson helped him regather. Really, apart from that, during the game, when it comes to chances for Jamie Vardy, because we were playing such a deep line, he didn't really have any spaces to run into. Absolutely, and I think part of that has got to go to those two.
Also, it's worth mentioning, I really liked the. I think lots of people did notice it, but Bobby Decordova-Reid dropping back into almost a right wing back, and Ola Reina pushing up and trying to man mark Maddison and Pratt out of the game. I thought that was a really nice move, and that helped to kind of, we had the centre backs who were sticking with Vardy, but also by playing that system, we stopped the balls getting to Vardy as well. And I think Decordova-Reid, we mentioned him at the other end of the field, but I thought his energy was superb, and he got up and down the pitch so well, and he gave Ola Aina so much support, and considering Aina's defence has been pretty poor, and he has been that weak link in the team, unfortunately, since he's been in there. I think Decordova-Reid gave him so much support that, you know, it felt like a really strong defensive performance. Not only did the players play really well, but I think the system suited them perfectly as well.
Yeah, I think bar, obviously we'll get onto their goal, but apart from maybe Aina's positioning on that, I thought defence today was sublime. You know, Tosin Adebayo and Joaquin Manderson, I thought their partnership's only getting better. And I thought today you really saw because neither of them are like really strong centre-backs, but their positional awareness today was absolutely superb. They've both got a bit of pace about them so they can get themselves out of any sticky situations. Out of the two, I'll point out Adebayo because he just always seemed to be today in the right place at the right time. If Anderson had somehow got caught out of position slightly, Tosin Adebayo was there to clean it up. And I think we are really seeing the improvement of our defensive partnership. And that was the issue at the start of the season. If, let's say, we got these two players in a couple of weeks before the season starts, then I don't think we'd be in as much trouble as we are, because we are seeing the effect they're having on our team. And again, another good performance from Areola today. But obviously we go into half-time, Jack, 2-0 up. I don't think anyone would have expected that going into the game. What were you thinking going into the second half? Did you think anything needed to change, or we just stuck with what we were doing, which we did, and just sort of allow Leicester to have the ball, because, you know, they like getting in behind them. We weren't allowing them to do that. Then hit them on a counter attack for hopefully a couple more chances.
Well, going into the second half, all you got to do is just manage the game as sensibly as you can, and basically just do what we did in the first half: sit back and just try and play on the break. And the thing with Leicester in that second half, I expected more from them in the opening 10, but we nullified them so much that they couldn't even. I remember the one instance, I think it was a bit further on in the second half, where Jamie Vardy got down the left-hand side, and Joaquin Anderson just got him and he ran out of play. And things went for us today. Things went for us, little things where we got the second ball, didn't quite fall for Vardy, didn't quite fall for the players in and around the box. They hit the post, they hit the bar. I mean, we rode our luck, but I thought that the second half, it's our best performance since the playoff final by a clear mile, better than West Brom. I just think against better opposition away from home, when you 2-0 up, it's very easy to sit deep and invite pressure. But even then, we didn't invite too much pressure until the end of the game. And that's what I'm really impressed with. I think Scott Parker's done a magnificent job, and I'm so gassed, honestly. I'm going to really enjoy that one.
One player we haven't touched on a load is Ivan Cavaleiro. Obviously, a lot of people were surprised that he was still starting today. You know, what's he got on Scott Parker, etc. I think I probably tweeted that, to be honest, because he's put 2 and 3 out of 10s consistently all of his season. But he looked totally different today. Do you think this penalty miss last week is actually going to be a good thing for him, that it's actually spurred him on? And, you know, he was doing stuff, say, like pulling off roulettes in Leicester City's box and things we haven't seen like that. And, you know, he led the line fairly well. There was times where he would be backing into the centre-backs and opening up space for the likes of Reid or the likes of Ademola Lookman, or laying it off to Loftus-Cheek. George, what do you think changed today with Ivan Cavaleiro?
I think there's a few things. I think obviously it's a bit of a different role for him today, playing that lone striker role, and it's one of those where if you're the lone striker when you're not going to get much of the ball, you know, it's one of those roles you're going to have to be a bit selfless and work hard for the team, because you're not going to get that many chances. But I thought when he got the ball, it stuck to him pretty well. I thought he added some great pace and some nice runs when we were attacking on the breaks, to, you know, not only give options for the player on the ball or to bring other people into play as well. And I think you've got to say a fair bit about the game state as well. When you're 2-0 up and you're just trying to waste some time, you can do those tricks. When you're losing a game, you really can't do those tricks. So I think, you know, he played pretty well in a difficult role, but certainly the fact that we were winning, obviously he played a part of that as well. It did kind of add a bit of shine to his performance as well.
If we get on to Leicester's goal around the 85th minute or so, which got him back into the game, I immediately looked at Aina, because he seems to come inwards to allow Vardy that space to lay it off to Harvey Barnes. I know it's a great finish from Harvey Barnes. Jack, do you think Aina should be doing a bit better there? Do you think our defence got there, sort of caught a bit too much ball watching in that particular cross, and they allowed Vardy to lay it off to Harvey Barnes to smack into the top corner?
Like even before the cross came in, I think there was one other player and Harrison Reed, and they were quite static as the ball came in, which was frustrating because you want to try and get out and block the cross. And it was the first real time we were kind of caught out. The ball came in, and yeah, it was. I will be honest. I don't really remember the goal too much. I watched the goal go in, and I didn't really watch the replays. I was kind of just looking. I was watching the FA Cup draw basically, but I'll watch it back. But if Ian is at fault, then he's at fault. But I don't want to lay blame on any of the players.
It's just more because obviously Anderson and Ina are both there, and Ina sort of ends up the other side of Anderson towards where the cross is coming in, and it allows Vardy this space at the back post, George, that it allows him to. I thought he was going to shoot, to be fair to him, but he lays it off to Harvey Barnes, and it is a great finish from Harvey Barnes. You've got to give him credit for that. But I mean, apart from that, that is probably the only defensive mistake we made today.
It felt like a bit of a lapse in concentration, but also when the ball's pinging around, like the ball did fall perfectly, both for Vardy and fell again perfectly for Barnes. So it's one of those, yeah, you could kind of write it up to a bit of, a lapse in concentration, but also I think they were, it's luck of the draw at the end of the day. Sometimes 95% of the time they bounce out, but sometimes they fall perfectly. So I think this is where having the 2-goal lead and having that cushion was so important, because against a top quality Premier League, probably Champions League worthy side in Leicester City, they're going to get those chances. So we did so well to not only give ourselves the cushion, but also put that off so long that, by the time they got that goal, they had so little time to push forward for that equaliser that we were able to just manage the game. So, yeah, I mean, maybe a lapse in concentration, but we managed the game around that pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, and I think especially in the second half, if you look at the chances we created, Jack, we seem to be executing our press very, very well. There was that one when Johnny Evans sort of passed it back from a quick free kick towards Kasper Schmeichel, and he caused them a lot of trouble. I think that resulted in, was it the Loftus-Cheek's attempt that went just wide and just over the bar. So do you think tactically today this is the blueprint we've got to use, especially away from home against teams, or even at home when we play Liverpool in a couple of weeks, who are going to dominate possession? This has shown we've got a blueprint that we can work on, and this is the way that we can get results in this league. Because I'd argue, I've tweeted it, that this result probably tops anything that happened in the 18-19 season.
So you're completely right. I mean, the wins we got in the 18-19 season were basically when we were already relegated. Yeah, I think you're completely right. What I like about this is we were so streetwise in this game. We were nasty, and you have to be nasty to win football games, especially against opposition who are much more superior than you. And what interests me about that incident, where it almost is like you'd see Fulham do that all the time, where we just get in a mix up at the back, but Johnny Evans takes that free kick while Bobby D. Cordova-Reid is still harassing him in his face. And it just causes mayhem at the back, and even the chance where the keeper comes up and we nearly catch them out again. But I just like the press. I thought the pace up front, it allowed us to press high and cause problems. And I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and then with that chance with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, we win a corner, and then we win another corner, and we're just wasting time. And we were just very clever in the way we dealt with the game, especially when we came forward on the counter attack. We didn't rush our passes. We didn't rush chances. We were very considerate and just tried to eat away at the game as much as possible. And that ultimately is why we won the game. I think we managed it fantastically. And the press was fantastic.
If we're looking... yeah, go ahead, George.
I was going to say, I think on the press, we've got to say a few words for Ademola Lookman, who was so energetic and harassing the players from minute 1 until minute 90. I mean, we spoke about that. Johnny Evans passing back Schmeichel. It was Lookman who, from out of nowhere, Schmeichel looked round, looked back, and within what felt like a second, Lookman was right on him. And being able to do that, it stifled Leicester getting the possession and the quality of possession they needed. And I don't know about you guys, but when a team in a relegation scrap gets lots of loan players in, like we've seen 13-14 season, and we've seen a little bit 18-19 season as well, you can start to wonder, these loan players, they know they're not going to have to stick around. Are they actually giving 100%? Well, for someone like Lookman, you would never know that he's only here on loan. His work rate is superb. He's going after, he's harassing defenders. He's supporting the rest of his team. And I thought, obviously he scored a great goal, but we shouldn't forget his defensive performance as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Lookman today finally sort of bounced back from the Panenka goodness, because against Everton I didn't think he had his greatest game. He had a good game, don't get me wrong, but we know there's definitely better to come from. And they were pointing out pre-game in the pre-match analysis with obviously Carragher and Neville that apart from the penalty miss, he's probably been our best player going forward. Apart from actual goal scoring, he's not topping that department. And if we look at our team, Jack, do you think we would have been able to get this result if we started someone like Alexander Mitrovic?
No, I don't think so. This is the reason I was explaining to my brother when the team news came out of why would you gone for this team, or why I thought we'd gone for this team, is because even Tom Cairney slows down play. If you're in possession, he slows it down. But every time we're going to have the ball in this game, basically going forward, it will probably be on a counter attack, and we need someone with a bit more pace, a bit more pass, because he only passed with a left foot. But with Mitrovic, the thing is, if we play on the counter attack, Mitrovic is lacking in pace. So basically, all we just needed was our fastest players up front. I'm surprised Abu Kamara didn't get a run out, but I'm sure we'll see him soon. But this game with Mitrovic, if he start, he'd be our target man. We try and flash balls into him, but I don't think we'd be as streetwise and as clever on the break with him, because it'd have to be a different option, different dynamic because of his lack of pace. That's why Cav going central was so pivotal. And then we had the two supporting him. I thought the lineup was confusing at first, but then I understood it after about 5 or 6 minutes.
Do you think, George, that we're going to see sort of two different, not very different, but two different teams in different situations? So again, in games like Palace at home, for example, I know we didn't win the game, but games against mid-table or teams who could be dragged into relegation type teams, we'll see a different team at home when we expect to dominate possession. Then when we go away from home to better sides, like we saw against Leicester today, we're going to see something totally different. Do you think we're going to see a bit of sort of tactical adaptability from Scott Parker this year?
Absolutely. I think in the Premier League you get such a variety of game styles, from Guardiola ball to Klopp ball to Ralph Hasenhüttl. Rodgers plays his own way, and then you get teams like Sean Dyche's Burnley, and for all of them we're going to have to come up with different game plans, because gone are the days in the Premier League where you can just put the same squad out game after game after game and rattle through them and pick up the points. You can't really do that anymore. You need to reflect against who you're playing and try and come up with a way of playing to outscore them. And I thought, this is where we need to start expecting a bit more variation. And I think, certainly the lineup and the game plan Scott went with today is understandable, the way that he did that. I think potentially the risk that we've got here is we are a bit pigeonholed in the striking department, with only Mitrovic being the only real kind of high quality player there. Obviously, Abu can play there, and Bobby can play there, and Cav can play there, but those three, they're not quite high enough quality for what we need up there. So whilst I do think we're going to see more games where we potentially rotate options, I'm still feeling a little bit concerned that for games like this, which are going to be, half the games are away, even the games at home against Liverpool, City, Spurs, etc., we're going to have less of the ball. So we're going to have to play this more reactive, direct football. I'm not sure that we've necessarily got the players to play it every week. I think Cav played well today, Bobby played well today, but are they high enough quality to put in the same kind of performances week in and week out? I'm not too sure.
If another player we touched on briefly is obviously Ruben Loftus-Cheek today. He started instead of Tom Cairney today. And for me, it felt like we've seen the closest we've seen to a match fit Ruben Loftus-Cheek today. I think if you look at the Sheffield United game, for example, he looked great in 15 minutes or so. Then he sort of burnt out after that. Today, for the entire time he was on the pitch before he got replaced by Mario Lemina, he looked match fit. And I think it pretty much backs up the point today that we can't really play him and Cairney. It is simply a fact of which game suits Cairney and which game suits Loftus-Cheek. Jack, what would you say?
Yeah, this goes back to my point earlier, where this is why Cairney didn't start for this game, because Ruben Loftus-Cheek just suited the opposition more. He drifted out wide. He's quicker than Cairney. He's got he's got a bit more flair going forward, and I think that he was a fine option. And in terms of looking at the game against City, would you set up similar? I'm sure we'll come on to it, but will we set up similar? I think maybe. I think that Loftus-Cheek was today the right option, and people were saying, "Oh, why has Kenny been dropped? He's our captain, Joachim Andersen's captain." But Loftus-Cheek put in a worthy performance, and we're seeing his class. I mean, this guy's played for England at a World Cup, and
arguably in 2018, he was one of our better players in that
yeah,
World Cup as well.
he was superb, and I like Loftus-Cheek because you can play him basically nearly anywhere. You can play him out wide.
Well, if you look in the first half, especially especially when we didn't have the ball, he was sort of covering the number 10 position, but he was also covering the right wing position where when Bobby Reid was dropping deeper to sort of support Olarina. And so we've seen that the flexibility that Loftus-Cheek provides us, that Kenny might not be able to provide us, but then we've seen in other games, for example, the West Ham game, that Kenny can offer us things that Loftus-Cheek can't. I think, again, it is just a game-by-game basis where which player suits it more. And, you talk about Man City up next. I think I'd expect us to set up something similar to what we did today. A team is going to dominate possession, and we're going to try hit them on the counter attack. And albeit we used to have a great record away at Manchester City. But in recent years, it hasn't obviously been the greatest. But I'd expect a similar sort of lineup to what we saw today. And I think it's not something that is gone under the radar. We have spoken about a lot, but a questionable decision at the time was when we brought in Alphonso Areola from PSG on loan. Should we just not bin off Rodak in that way, but sort of put him straight into the team? But we've seen ever since he's come in, Jules, the experience he provides that back line, his command of the area, him coming to claim balls or coming to punch them away, it really was a no-brainer putting him in there.
I fully agree. I think whilst obviously as fans, we hold players in our hearts and we want, I want Marek Rodak to have the best career possible. And I really hope one day that will be in the Premier League for Fulham. But for now, you've got to be a bit cold about it. And if bringing Areola in gives us a 1% better chance of staying up, then, we can't just be nice and play Marek in because he's helped us get where we are. You've got to be cold. You've got to be ruthless. And I think what Areola's showing, obviously, we'll never know. You can't really compare them perfectly, but I do think he's been really strong since he's come in. Not only from a shot-stopping point of view, his distribution has been very good, and also he seems to be building that kind of strong relationship with the back four. And certainly, since kind of gone are the days where at every corner when we had a keeper like Bettinelli who would flap a lot, and I'd feel nervous every time we got a corner. We're Fulham. We're not going to be the best at set pieces, but I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting to feel more confident when you see crosses coming in, when you see corners coming in. I'm certainly feel a lot more confident now that either Areola's making the right decision about when to come and when to not, and when he does come for it, he's normally pretty strong and normally gets the ball more often than not. So, yeah, from my point of view, it certainly was a difficult decision and one that Scott probably didn't find easy, but it's probably the right one in the long term.
If we move on to a couple of players you haven't mentioned yet, Anthony Robinson at left back, he looked very, very good going forward today, Jack, didn't he?
Yeah, he's such a good option to have on the overlap as well. He's got great pace and he can get back as well if we lose possession. I don't think he really did put a foot wrong today. And I feel a bit sorry for Joe Bryan. I mean, this guy literally scored the goals to take us into the Premier League. He started a couple of games. I think he started against Leeds and Aston Villa, I think. There we go, life for Bryan. But in terms of Robinson, this guy, you can tell why AC Milan wanted him. He's absolutely class. And he had that chance in the first half where he kind of makes the wrong decision what type of shot to take. But I think he maybe just panicked. It was the first real chance we had in the game. I think this guy's been absolutely class for us this season, and a top left back. And when I say an upgrade on Bryan, probably. I remember the game we played against Wolves where we had him left back and then Bryan left wing. I wouldn't mind seeing that again, but at the moment, in the way the dynamic's working right now, I think Robinson is our first choice left back.
Yeah, another player we didn't really touch on, so it's Harrison Reed today. Obviously, I thought he had a great game, and I think he was the sole reason why the midfield sort of seemed so functional today. I was just getting really worried that he would pick up a stupid second yellow card for like the entirety of that second half. But again, what performance from him today, George?
I think he was brilliant. I think obviously I spoke a little bit about partnerships, Adebayo and Anderson, and Reed and Aina at the right flank. But I thought Reed and Anguissa together they fit together so well. The energy between them was so good. The work rate is so strong. They do not stop running, and especially when you're playing a midfield two against a lot of the teams in the Premier League, you can't have either of them being that kind of water carrier role. You need both of them if you're going to play them in the pivot to be that energetic, and they were both brilliant. I thought both really good in interceptions, loads of defensive actions, stepping up at the right time, and also knowing when to sit back and allow the opposition a bit more space further up the pitch. Solid on the ball, and I think what I quite like is you've got someone like Anguissa who's a bit more adventurous and will push up the pitch. He can do that when you've got someone like Harrison Reed next to him, who he's never going to be a kind of a flashy player. You don't want him to be that kind of player. You want him to be the kind of player who makes the rest of the team look great through his work rate, through recycling the ball, and just being that kind of key defensive cog. So yeah, certainly those two I really like together. I wouldn't mind if a TC came in front of those two, or we played a bit with some options around them. But for me, I'm really happy with those two as your midfield pivot, and I'm really hopeful that they're going to kind of be the core of the team for the rest of the season going forward. Oh, I don't know, Dom. I can't hear you. Is it just me or?
Maybe that. Yeah, my mic is working now.
That's fine. Sorry.
Cool. Yeah. So if we look at Jordan Butler's comment here about Bobby Reed being the man of the match, completely new role, was so impressive in part of his big plan. Jack, if you're looking at man of the match performances today, what sort of players are you looking at?
Well, it's a great point. I think Bobby Reed, the way he covered for right back and was helping out Aina, and then him getting forward, he was tricky, and he was causing some problems in terms of like he was winning fouls, and it's frustrating Leicester in the second half. I think he's a candidate, and I think that Anguissa for his run and for his assist against Lookman and the way he controlled it in midfield. It's hard to pick. When you've played that well, it's very, very hard to pick a man of the match. And it's very obvious to go, oh, Lookman or Cav, because they scored the goals. But based on the new role that he had to play, Bobby Reed, and the way he conducted himself and the way he executed it, I would gladly give Bobby Reed the man of the match.
What about you, George?
I think this is one of those games where, I wonder what the player ratings are doing, but you kind of feel that everyone deserves about a 7 or 8. Like everyone played really well. There wasn't necessarily a huge standout performance, but I don't know about you guys, but I'd much rather the whole team played up to a great standard than a big variety in who played well.
I'd say everyone in the team put in a 7 or 8 out of 10 performance today, and that's what you need. You don't need 2 players putting a 9 and everyone else putting somewhere ranging from a 3 to a 6. And if I was going to pinpoint it on one player today, I'd probably say Tosin Adebayo, because I just thought he added so much calmness and solidity to our defence, and it's why we kept Leicester. The reason we didn't have too many chances to defend from Leicester is because our defence played so well. And I think, Tosin Adebayo had a sublime game today. As he said, today was a game of everyone putting a 7 or 8 or even a 9 out of 10 today, and it was great. It was great to see, and this, as we mentioned before, shows that it's not going to be like, it doesn't need to be like 18-19 this season. We can go to places like the King Power against teams like Leicester, who are in the Europa League, who are pushing for top 4, top 6 once again, and we can give them a game. And we can beat these teams, and I think it gives, and it just puts a smile on everyone's faces that we can go on here on a Monday evening and talk about a great Fulham performance and a great Fulham victory. And it's just hopefully, I know we've got 2 very, very tough games coming up next, obviously away to Manchester City, then at home to Liverpool. But, you know, we're not in the Premier League just to be the whipping boys here. We're in the Premier League to see how we compete against these teams in there, where we can finish in this league, Jack. And so if we're looking ahead briefly to the Manchester City game, Jack, is it just hope everyone else loses as well? Or do you really think we have a genuine chance of getting, because they haven't had the great start to the season?
No, Man City have been completely below par, and it's almost quite a good time to play them. I know Burnley got a bit of a thrashing from them, but I think the Burnley game is a prime
that happens
example.
every single year. I feel like that 5-0 scoreline happens whenever they play.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about that Burnley game is Burnley had nothing going for them going forward. They have Dwight McNeil, they have Rodriguez, and apart from that, not much danger. But as we've shown today, we do have a bit of, you know, a threat on the break. So if we do get balls in those areas, we could maybe potentially, you know, it sounds ridiculous.
Well, we've seen teams in recent seasons with this Pep Guardiola side surprised him by playing on a counter-attack.
Exactly.
Crystal Palace springs to mind. Wolves springs to mind. That there are teams. It's not just, you know, if you give Man City a game, then you'll get that respect, and it'll actually be a good game out. It won't just be sort of a battering. Obviously, the cup game against them last season didn't exactly help because Tim Ream got sent off after about I can't remember how long it was, 5-10 minutes for that penalty, and then, you know, we're playing with 10 men the entire game. But no, I think, you know, we can give them a game next. I'm not saying we're going to go there and win, but we can definitely compete in that game. As I said, we've been in games this season. You know, the only games we got battered was at the beginning of the season against the likes of Arsenal and Aston Villa. So, and you know, Arsenal if we were playing Arsenal now, I'd back us to beat them because they're playing so terrible at the moment. So it's just great, as I said, to be coming in talking about a win, Jack. So, any last words about the game, Jack, or is it just great to be talking about a win as I've been talking about?
I got one thing or two things quickly. This has been coming. I know it sounds ridiculous, not beating Leicester, but an away win has been coming. We played okay against Wolves. We were unlucky. We played great against West Ham. And again, we're unlucky. Definitely should have got a point. So I think we play very well away from home. And I think we deserved a win so far this season away from home, or at least a point more or more. And yeah, we've done really well to get the 3 points. And also, I have a go at Cavaleiro for all his chicks and flicks, but it works, I think, as we said earlier, when you're playing on the counter and you're trying to slow the game down, and you can do all those little moves. So I'm pleased, delighted. I'll have a beer and celebrate this, no doubt.
Any last words from you, George?
Yeah, check out the Fulhamish shop for shirts like these. Many other ones on sale. We've got a few of them which are today's the last day to get them. So fulhamish.co.uk/shop.
Wonderful.
Shameless plug. Sorry.
Shameless plug. Get the merch in. But yes, this has been Full-Time Live with me, Dom, Jack, and George. It's been great to be talking to you guys about an away win for Fulham in the Premier League. It's been a long time since that Bournemouth game. This has been the Fulhamish YouTube channel, Facebook page, Twitter account, wherever you watch it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.